Wednesday afternoon is here. Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us. We are Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, to tend to the IMF or not. President Akufo-Addo holds cabinet retreat over Ghana's economic challenges. We hear from the minority in parliament, which says an IMF bailout is inevitable. Meanwhile, Ghanaians are already feeling the pinch.
Of petrol price right now, if you hold how much 5 million, me like that, you no go reach me. You no go reach me. Yeah, I swear, you no go.
Also this afternoon, Bulgarian embassy commences dialogue with the government of Ghana after its chancery was demolished at East Cantonment here in Accra. We'll bring you updates on that story and on the Joy Clean Ghana campaign. Today, we'll tell you more about 7 people who have been handed cautionary notices by the officials of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly sanitation team for failing to clean their surroundings.
Law that every household is mandatory to have a toilet facility. So we are giving you 2 weeks to construct a toilet facility.
So stay for details of all of these stories and more here on The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogan. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignity, Low Affordable Safe Sanitation. Remember that this afternoon we're streaming live on YouTube and all of our social media handles. It's JoyNews on TV. Tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sogan. Stay for details. And this afternoon there's that big question: to turn to the IMF or not? That's the question on the table as President Akufo-Addo is set to begin a crunch meeting with cabinet today over Ghana's imminent economic crisis. Just in the last 24 hours, fuel prices have skyrocketed, reaching a record 10 cedis per litre. Experts attribute the situation to the free fall of the Ghana cedi. Ghanaians say they can't bear this anymore. Samuel Kojo Brates has the rest of the story on the streets of Accra.
I want to beg the government himself. He said, but the work ministers and this what you want to be that. He said all the thing know that thing. But they don't talk the government right way. The thing they do is bad thing be that. So right now they go for the 2 years now for that. Everybody complain for that. It's not good for that.
Because of petrol, won't mean Didi. Won't mean Didi. Inshallah, things be fine. Inshallah. Because of petrol price right now, if you hold how much 5 million, me like that, you no go reach me. You no go reach me. Yeah, I swear you no go reach me.
Me the one of the ebe say kwa ebe say ina man di o ina to mano you know ina ba ndey amana ndey mra pombi ina to mano nimse bia oba be de den oba so kurume den o mia kurume kakama o mia no fi ni me don't kill how me don't kill how I've been on me don't kill how I be on top.
Also, there's some Ghanaians on the streets of Accra complaining. Earlier today, sources closer to the presidency giving us a hint of what the discussion may be about. And as you have there on your screens now, a tweet which we're bringing to you indicating what may be likely on the table as the president goes into that cabinet meeting. But we also do have a breakdown for you of currently how Ghana is faring in terms of our economic needs, and possibly you may want to have an understanding of the figures as we have them on the screens for you coming up shortly, and giving you a picture actually of how much government is on the lookout for in terms of funding, and which is bringing about all of this conversation relating to Ghana's economy. But just as you have it now, we're looking for a certain amount of money, and that money that we're looking for is right on your screens in terms of funding, which government is on the lookout for, heavily reliant on taxation as well. So we can bring you the breakdown. Just have a look at it. 137.5 billion Ghana cedis is what the government of Ghana is on the lookout for, and a significant proportion of that figure that we're talking about is heavily reliant on taxation. As to how government intends to raise that amount, we're not able to tell now, but we know that the deficit as we speak is some 37 and more billion Ghana cedis that government is in dire need for to make up for the already 100.5 billion revenue that is expected. But here's the challenge about the expected revenue. Out of the amount that we're looking for, the tax component of that 100.5 billion, the tax component is 80.2 billion. Now, out of that 80.2 billion, government is targeting some significant amounts of money from the controversial subject of the electronic transactions levy, which is actually becoming a challenge for government in Parliament as well. So that's why the president is set to meet on the matter, taking a look at the whole picture and deciding on whether or not they should turn to the IMF or raise funds internally. Minority has been commenting on the matter. Minority in Parliament says Ghana has no option but to turn to the IMF at this point. Kesela Forson is ranking on the Finance Committee in Parliament. Dr. Athol Forson, thank you for joining us on the polls. So here we are. We know that government is about to consider whether or not the nation should go to the IMF or otherwise. Prior to where we are today, you made a call asking government to consider going to the IMF even before now. Has your position changed ever since then?
Thank you very much. And let me add my voice in saying that the government has no choice. Where we find ourselves as a country, there is the need for the government to take a critical decision. The decision may be very difficult to pure, but in the end, it will be in the interest of the country. I'm urging the government to take a decision that will preserve the bright prospect of this country by going to the IMF. I say this for a simple reason, that where the country is heading towards, clearly it looks like we are going to have an accident on the way. Accident in the sense that the way the economy is being run, the levels of our debt, the rate at which inflation is going up, the rate at which that our city is depreciating and we are losing so much reserves in a very short period of time. Clearly, everything points to an accident that is about to hit us as a country. And I'm urging the government to avert that accident by signing on to an IMF program immediately.
And why sign up on that? Many say this can be dealt with by looking at the local solution. And part of that local solution is the controversy that stares you in the face in Parliament, the need to drive internally generated funds through the e-levy and other mechanisms as well. Why not go for a homegrown approach in dealing with this matter?
Let me say that a homegrown posture or a homegrown program will mean that you have to first show evidence that that homegrown program is going to work. You should indeed have an evidence showing clearly that those policies you are going to put on the table is going to yield some results. Unfortunately, evidence we've seen from 2020, 2021 suggests that government does not have the political will to implement a homegrown policy that will indeed reverse the fiscal imbalances that we are seeing.
I mean, what evidence do you have to back that, particularly when we know, and you've been accused, I'm sure you've heard that you are sabotaging government even when it attempted to make its first move to raise internally generated funds through the e-levy. You've stated your position on the matter. You say it's not the way to go. So it's as though you are tying the hands of government and expecting that something will come out from their policy measures.
Okay. I will deal with the issue of revenue later, but let me first of all address the issue of homegrown.
Okay, then.
The reality is that consistently, this government has been posting a fiscal deficit since 2018. That is obviously not sustainable. That has driven all of us to the ditch, and we've seen debt growing at a level that is not acceptable. Today, our public debt, I'm sure the central bank is about to announce it, but the fact is our public debt has exceeded 80%. In fact, from my mathematics, the numbers that I have seen and I've worked it out, the Public Debt Plus Energy Sector Levies Act, the amount that we have borrowed on the back of the ESLA bonds and the Sino Hydro will give you approximately 83% of our GDP, per the evidence that I have seen. I can also confirm to you that by the end of December this year, I would not be surprised to see the debt stock increasing to a level that is unprecedented in our history, in the region of about 90%.
But at Forson, that's not new. That's not new. The accusation is that you started it off. We crossed the 70% threshold under the John Mahama regime. So the issue of debt is not particularly new to this administration.
But can I correct you that after the rebasing, our debt to GDP before when President Mahama was leaving office was 56%. And also to correct you that since the Fourth Republic, it's only this government that is taking our public debt to about 90% of GDP. Our debt has been increasing at an increasing, very important to you. I've consistently heard members of this administration pointing to the fact that the obvious solution will be the passage of the e-levy or revenue. But let me say that I disagree with them 100% on this one. Because, in fact, investors will respond positively if government decide to cut expenditure than necessary raising revenue. So they are getting it wrong. What I see wrong with this administration is the fact that they are not appreciating the magnitude of the problems that we face in this economy. Our economy is in deep trouble, and I can predict to you that if they fail to take the risk to take us to an IMF,
it's not as though we've not seen the IMF conditionalities before. Government is in fact told us the implications of that. That's not something that they should be telling us. It's quite obvious that when we go to the IMF, there'll be, and just hold on for me briefly, there'll be a number of restrictions on government in terms of expenditure and some of the policy measures. That would be really biting, isn't it?
But what is the trade-off? The trade-offs will mean the economy will collapse on us. So we are confronted with two scenarios. Scenario one, go to an IMF, obviously endure the conditionalities for a couple of years and get your economy on track. Or scenario two, wait until your economy collapses completely to the level that will bring social tension on the street and if charge a price for it. If I'm given the opportunity to choose, I will advise the government to take the first scenario. Go to an IMF program. You won't be the first government ever to go into an IMF program. Successive government has taken Ghana to an IMF program. In fact, President Rawlings took Ghana to an IMF program. In fact, President Kufuor did the same. President Mills did it. President Mahama has done it. And so I do not understand the policy of this administration as if IMF is a monster.
But if you're asking for the policy of this government, if you're asking for the policy of this government, the government says it's running a Ghana beyond aid. I'm sure that you've heard that as well.
A Ghana beyond aid that has gone to the market and borrowed so much money. I would have thought that a government beyond aid will be a government that is not borrowing so much. The leader of COVID obviously asked the IMF to give them 2 billion Ghana cedis, the very IMF that you are bastardizing today. The World Bank is giving you money. In fact, before COVID, you've been taking money left, right, and center from everyone else. So what are we talking about? What is important for us to do today is for us to preserve the bright prospect of this country. And not for one political party to think that because I want to preserve my tradition, I want to obviously, win elections. So I'm taking decisions that will run the country into a ditch. We will not accept that as
right. We need to go.
We ask them to do what is wrong.
Right. We need to go. We have just a minute. There's a cabinet meeting, as we understand, underway to consider the options. What's your simple message to the president on this?
My message to His Excellency, the President of the Republic, is for him to take a decision that is right and will preserve the bright future of our country. Our country is obviously in a big mess. Excuse my French, our country's economy is in a deep shape. That is the fact. It is for the President to take a decision that will be in the interest of the country. I acknowledge that it will come with some conditionalities, but it's worthwhile because the trade-off will mean that in the course of the year, Ghana may end up limping to the IMF program in an ambulance. And if care is not taken, that will spark social tension. So you should go and choose the right option, an option that will preserve the country's future. That is what he's been elected to do.
Dr. Forson, thank you so much for joining us on the Pulse. And so there you have it, the position of minority on this matter, asking government to consider an IMF conditionality. But Are we ready for that? And what are the other avenues available to government as we speak? Joining us now via Zoom is Courage Buti, an economist helping us to understand all of this. Courage, you've seen the arguments from government indicating that we have an alternative, even if we don't go to the IMF. But minority says it's inevitable. What's your analysis of all that's been happening?
Well, good afternoon to your listeners. Good afternoon to your listeners. I believe you can hear me, right?
Yes, loud and clear. Right.
Yeah. So let me just start on this light note. It's not too difficult to understand why both parties are arguing the way they are arguing. MPP, before they came to government, made IMF look like that monster whom you don't want to associate with. In fact, the NDCs claim that they went to the IMF between 2014 and then where we ended to claim policy credibility was one item they mocked so much during the campaign period, and then bringing them now to government. And then so I think it's only fair to say, in keeping with their position, that going to IMF will make mockery of whatever it was said previously about the IMF. Really, that is one thing. On the other hand,
I'm sorry, is it really an issue of political points as we speak, when we know that government is obviously concerned about the average Ghanaian who are feeling the pinch of what's happening to the economy?
Well, it's just my preliminary point, really. I would actually state my opinion on this, but I'm just trying to say that it's not hard to see why both parties are arguing the way they are arguing. On the NDC side, you made them lose power because you bastardized them. You made Ghanaians believe that these things are not good and all of that. And so if you go to IMF now, I have every reason to hold you to it, and then tell Ghanaians why you are not better managers of the economy after all, and that you also need IMF much as I do, and it will have consequence for the political game, I believe, in 2024. I believe it's a reason, even not that is the whole fact, it might be part of why the arguments are going they are going. But that said, I don't think it's an argument of either or, whether do we go to the IMF or not. I think where we are now, we must admit, for every well-reasoning Ghanaian and analyst worth its salt must admit that we are in the situation we are partly because of the shocks of COVID, and it's not exclusive to Ghana. And of course, you can admit some mismanagement and some wrong decisions here and there. But chiefly, we are where we are because of the ravages of COVID and all of that. If we are trying to solve it, the immediate problem is that we've lacked access to the international capital market, and the domestic capital market is not deep enough to provide the resource needs to finance the deficit for 2022 and then the other things we need to do, right? And so the question then is, what will going to IMF do for you? Going to IMF at this point in time gives you that credibility and then probably potentially give you access back to the market. Because once IMF comes to town, the investor community are short of discipline. They are short of you keeping to the fiscal target. They are short of you cutting away wastages. And those are the things they need to reassure them to want to look at your bonds again. The CD is reeling, and then rightly so, because droves of offshore investors are moving out of our economy. They do not see prospects. And then we can't see access to the international capital market, where usually we go early in the year to get on Eurobonds to shore our reserves, the reason we've always supported the CD all through this period. So going to IMF at this point gives you access back to that market, where the investors are sure that we have our big brother in town who will make sure these guys behave, and so we can start looking at them. That is one side. But that doesn't rule out the fact that we need to look for domestic sources of raising revenue. IMF gives you maximum. The last program we went to, it's about 980 million or so. Now our quota has increased somehow. So give or take, you are getting about between 1.3 or 1.5 billion. Multiply that by today's exchange rate, and it is just a little under or just close to the amount we want to raise from e-levy alone. And that is for that money, if the program is 3 years, it will be split between 3 years, really. So you are not having 1 billion or 1.5 billion.
But I guess it's just not about the funding that we're getting from the IMF. You talk about credibility on the market and all of that. These are issues that, for instance, Fitch talks about. Fitch says if we need that credibility in terms of going out there to seek for external funding, we'll need that credibility support from the IMF. So it goes way beyond the amount in terms of the collective that we're looking at comparatively to the e-levy, isn't it?
Exactly my point, and that's why I'm saying it's not an either-or situation, really.
Right.
We need to look at both, because going to IMF has immediate returns, but in terms of money, you know, and I'm countering government position that we can raise the money from within, and so if you are raising the money from within, the local market is not able to give you enough. You want taxes.
Courage, if you're still with us. Courage, we're also trying to look at this aspect of how much more time we have. Courage, are you still there with us? We appear to be having some challenges there, but Courage will join us to look at the aspect that we want to also explore, the issue about how much more time government has on its hands to deal with this matter in terms of the e-levy, because that's the alternative that government is eyeing. And he's just brought us a perspective indicating that if we're able to work on the e-levy, that may deal with the funding gap that we're looking for from the likes of the IMF. We'll get back to that short. 4 out of Ghana's 7 MRI scans are dysfunctional as Health Minister reveals attempts to repair them have proven futile. Cancer patients in the country will have trouble accessing MRI machines for diagnosis and subsequent treatment. 4 out of only 7 MRI scans machines in the country have broken down. Health Minister Kwekwagyama Menu has revealed all attempts to repair the machines have not been successful. Answering questions from Deputy Minority Leader James Kluchaveji, the Health Minister revealed government is in the process of procuring new MRI scan machines which can withstand weather conditions in the country. Parliamentary correspondent Kwesi Parker Wilson joins us with more details on this. Parker, so what more do we know about the response that we're getting from the Health Minister?
So there's an assurance from the Health Minister that the MRI machines will be procured, but it largely depends on the resources that we have as a country, and that is why he cannot put timelines to when we'll be procuring these MRI machines. But he has indicated that there's been already an engagement between him and the Finance Ministry to ensure that all the needed resources for the machines are procured. But one major challenge for them, again, is about the weather conditions in the country, which ordinarily or sometimes affects the delivery of these MRI machines. So they are now thinking of procuring the ones that would withstand the harsh weather conditions we have in this country. So these were some of the informations that he gave the members of the House. But I must say that Deputy Minority Leader James Kluchaveji inquired from him why they cannot learn from the private facilities, because a number of the private facilities have MRI machines, but it appears that the government hospitals do not have. The point he made to the Deputy Minority Leader was that he has no knowledge of what's happening in the private sector. However, if that suggestion has been given, he would try and then look out for it and see how best we can manage our MRI machines in the country. Now, away from that, bless that, the Health Committee of Parliament also visited the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. You know that in the last few days, we've had media reports about the possible sale of that facility, even though the Health Minister himself denied that there was going to be a sale of the facility. Well, the committee members decided to go and ascertain things for themselves. They met the management of the facility, and it was established that indeed there was going to be a redevelopment, but nothing has come up so far about the sale of the facility to a private developer. Rather, there are talks about PPEs to generate revenue for the facility. And basically because of what happened with the general hospital situation, the committee members are proposing that they put together a makeshift structure for the staff and the patient as well. So as they go through or they work within these structures, the redevelopment project will commence. Again, we don't know when the ministry will commence the redevelopment project, but the timeline that has been given is about July thereabout, even though the needed funds are not ready or readily available. So the committee then concluded that what they would have to do is to invite the minister before the House for him to answer a few questions on some of the controversies or perhaps things that they do not have better appreciation of as far as this redevelopment exercise is concerned. So that has been the point of the members of the committee, the Health Committee of Parliament, who today visited the Accra Psychiatric Hospital to ascertain for themselves whether there is a possibility for government, or the rumors that government is selling the Accra Psychiatric Hospital to a private developer was true or not. We are told that it is never true. But the ranking on the committee, who is in the person of Commoner Minta Kando, is a bit skeptical. He would want to know more details before he can conclude that there are no plans by the government to sell off the property to any individual. So with the health minister, these are some of the things that have happened. Now, Blessed, the one interesting thing that happened in the chamber today is, for the third time in 2 weeks, Parliament has been forced to adjourn sitting early. Now, this is because of lack of quorum. I must say that the chairman of the Finance Committee today presented a report to the House for adoption. This report was a loan facility for, and I have the other paper with me here. It says that it is a report of Finance Committee on the loan agreement between Government of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Finance, and KfW, is the German Development Bank, for an amount of 20 million euros to finance the green credit line. So this is the renewable energy mix project, which we are securing about 20 million euros for this particular project. But because of lack of quorum, the minority arrested the motion and forced the House to adjourn. Even though I must say that the available leader from the majority side, Frank Anodompre, who prevailed upon his colleagues that this project or this loan agreement is quite important for the country and that they have to overlook the rules because they are masters of their own rules. In fact, this particular expression triggered anger and some form of discontent among the minority members, indicating that the Supreme Court has indicated to the House that they are no longer masters of their own rules, and so they would have to go strictly by the law. And Order 48 is clear that if you don't have 1/3 of the members present in the House, you cannot transact business. So they applied Order 48 and forced the Speaker, that is the second Deputy Speaker, Andrew Esiama, who was in the chamber at the time, to adjourn proceedings. So these are some of the happenings in Parliament today.
Parker Wilson, I'm grateful. We can now take you to some other stories now. The Bulgarian mission in Ghana says it is still in talks with the government of Ghana to find an amicable solution to the unlawful demolition of the Bulgarian embassy here in Ghana yesterday. The Ministry for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration confirmed that the lease rightfully belongs to the foreign mission. Per the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Immunity, Ghana has defaulted on its responsibility to protect the foreign embassy. However, commenting on the matter, Yanko Yadanov, who's the Bulgarian ambassador to Ghana in Nigeria, says government will use dialogue to resolve the matter. Thanks for staying with us on the polls. So when we return, we'll bring you some more stories. And you're welcome back to the polls. One person has been shot after gunmen suspected to be robbers attacked several shops in northeast regional capital Nalerigu. The attack, which occurred at about 4 p.m. Wednesday, according to eyewitnesses, was carried out by 4 armed men on motorbike. The victim, identified as a local security guard, was returning home from work when he was shot by the robbers. He was rushed to the Baptist Medical Center in a very critical condition. The attack has left the residents of the regional capital in fear and are calling for enough police presence. Ilya Sutanko reports.
According to eyewitnesses, The 4 suspected robbers on motorbikes arrived at this shop at about 4 p.m. The shops are popular in the town for selling soft drinks, motorbikes and vehicle parts respectively. The witnesses said 2 of the robbers seized this main road by firing indiscriminately at all approaching vehicles, while the 2 others entered the shops to rob. Several people who were at the shops at the time of the attack said they were made to lie face down at gunpoint. They said the entire operation lasted close to an hour as the robbers blocked all movement around the vicinity. The owner of the shop, who was still in shock, could not tell how much was taken away by the robbers. The individual who was shot by the robbers has been identified as a local security guard who was on his way home from work. Reports say he was shot at the upper part of his body and his fate is still unclear as he was rushed to the Baptist Medical Center in a critical condition. However, the robbers after this operation did not stop there, but went ahead to attack more shops on the Nalerigu Zari road. One of the shops belonged to this woman, Aisha Salifu. His 14-year-old son was in the shop when the robbers attacked. The boy was too traumatized to talk, as he claimed the robbers assaulted him and threatened to cut his throat.
The
My son was in the shop with his little sister. I was inside and decided to come out for the girl to breastfeed her. Within a few minutes after leaving the store, my son came in telling me armed robbers have attacked the shop. I became scared. I even sweated. I only became relieved when I got to know my son was not hurt because I heard a gunshot. I'm surprised looking at the time they carried out the operation. The regional police commander, Mr. Moses Ali, and his men were at the scene, but the robbers were long gone before their arrival. He declined to comment, saying an investigation was underway. Reporting for JoyNews, Ilyasu Tanko, Nalerigu.
Well, now a circuit court in Cape Coast has ordered for the annulment of polling station elections conducted in the Himanloa Dentra constituency. The NPP supporters in the constituency staged a series of protests and accused their MP for the constituency and executives of fraudulent elections. The aggrieved supporters challenged the elections in court, and on Thursday, the court ordered for fresh elections to be conducted and supervised by the Central Regional Party executives. The supporters have been celebrating the decision of the court on the streets of Cape Coast.
So these are jubilant supporters of the new patriotic party from the Himanloa Dentra constituency. They are excited. They went to court and the court has ruled that the earlier elections that were conducted in the constituency should be annulled. Fresh elections have to be organized so that they will be supervised by the regional party executive. Today, they are all over on the street of Cape Coast. They are jubilating. They feel that they've been vindicated and justice has been served. They couldn't help themselves but to celebrate on the street of Cape Coast. And so here we are. Let's get some people to speak with.
We had informed the public that the elections which were held in that constituency was not held in a fair and just manner, and for that matter, we had to go to court to seek to suffer justice from there. And this is what we've been fighting for over the time, and that's today when we went to court, the court actually upheld our claims, and then upon that annulled the earlier elections that was held in the constituency. For this reason, a fresh elections is to be conducted. And for that matter, the court also directed that the regional executive has to be there to supervise the elections, which is yet to be conducted. Though the opposition side, which is the chairman TT side, was seeking that the court should allow them and then withhold its ruling or decision, and then allow them to go and then continue with the electoral area coordinators elections. Very happy because we've seen victory and that we've seen justice done. And this is why we are happy. So when you say our side is happy, yes, it is true. Our side is very happy.
So what should we expect to be done in the constituency in order for peace to prevail?
We are one party. This is not an MPP NDC thing. This is an MPP thing. And for that matter, we do not expect anything extraordinary. Rather, we are expecting that the jubilants or the jubilations would be held in a very calm manner, so not to provoke the other side.
Yo, the entire Yeni say, a election na ye be na. Ye kwato ye forms na. Nanka ye mpini pese beto abano no na hye no ho eyiyi executives no. Ye mpene na ye hye enye ntia de beda na court. Na court ene due na ye badwo ada no. E na court hye yen se ene ya wo ye mbra. Na ene ye ba ye na ye hye police fo akosio mo abeguo. A omo na edin. Nso ye gina wa ma court e ka che yen se ne ye kɔ no ontumi kanche se abano waje atumi se eno ano no yen san kɔ ne yen kɔ kan yasem na yen tu abano foforo internet se ni jaba yasam ne de kɔ da na court no nyame adom ye di ama yen ti ye de
se aba ye ba beto ye hwe yen peso so ye MP na Oko bronu bi so no akwa we nsa so oso we wi ni okoma we so we ni dey asam be down court nti dey be down court no ye ba Monday ni ye ba no mo ka kire se ene ye mra ene yawda ye mra nti yawo ye ba ye nne no mubu asam de ma ye nti eni age ye sisi ye hu se bia ye to aba se da ye to aba se da ye ti ya no onenam himan kurase no to aba na ju 2 o'clock no to aba 4 o'clock no to aba ye se mbesi sa be si nti ne ye bomba dia se dia asam akọ down court na court so di asam ma ye nti ya anu asam ani nyame adi asam ma yo nyame adi ama yo se die bia o sa kọ di ni bia ma ye.
And this is the pulse. One of the issues that we've been following up for you is on the fuel prices. Now that we've indicated that the pumps have crossed the marks, there's a need for us to hear from the GPRTU. Obviously, they've hinted of an increment in the prices, but what's the next move of the group? Joining us now is Samuel Amwa. He is a national communications team member for GPRTU, who's joining us for a brief discussion on this. So now we have the official figures. Some of the pumps are pricing as high as 11.9 Ghana cedis. So is it confirmed now that you would increase the prices by 30%? And what date should we expect that increment?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Yes, we came out earlier that definitely where the petroleum product is now, we have to increase our transport fares. As for the reasons, we have given all the reasons why we have to increase the road fares, because we were targeting the 10% threshold, that whenever it hits that 10%, that is 8.8. But looking at it today, it has even exceeded, it has gone beyond the 8.8. So definitely the coalition has to meet and then do our calculations. Normally, we don't normally look at only the petroleum product. We check on the spare parts, we check on the lubricants, we check on the taxes, talking about DVLA taxes, assembly taxes, and insurance. So these are the components we use to run our business. So at the moment, what we have to do is the coalition to call an immediate meeting. Hopefully, maybe by Monday or Tuesday, we have to meet. Then the committee will go out to go and check all these things. Then we'll come out with the percentage that we have to increase. Actually, yes, people think we are still coming out with 30%. For that one, I can't confirm it for now. As I said earlier, it's the committee that has to go and do all these checks. Then they will come out with a percentage, looking at where they gave us the 15%, where the petroleum product was, and now. Then we'll do all these checks. Then we'll come out with a percentage. So if you ask me as to when the increment will come or how much percentage it will come, for that I can't confirm it for now.
But you're setting that you're setting it will go beyond the 30%. The demand you were making at the time was at the time of the previous pricing window. So now that you're going to make fresh demands and fresh analysis on this, it's setting that you may go beyond the 30%, right?
Oh, for that one, I don't think it has to go beyond 30%, because before, when we proposed this 30%, our checks made us understood that the fuel prices, was increased up to about 34% from when we were giving the 13%. When we were giving the 13%, the fuel was around 6.5 I think 6.4. And now, by the time they gave us the 15.2, it was 7.99. So looking at it, if we go out there to go and check all these components that I said earlier on that we used to run the businesses, I don't think it has to exceed the 30%, but maybe it will be around that, from 20 or 25. Yes, it will be around that, but we can't be specific for now.
Already consumers are complaining about the amount involved. Already the 15% that you've implemented appears to be a challenge for those who have to cough up more funds to make up for the demand you're making. Now that you're moving it into the 20% zone, that would mean that consumers would have to pay more. Are you mindful of all of this? And what is your expectation, perhaps from government, that will avert this imminent increase? What's your expectation from government?
You see, our expectation from the government is that, from onset, our intention is not to increase, transport fares, because we the operators, whenever transport fares has been increased, it reduces the number of passengers that do come to our stations. It brings the business down, because there are some short distances. If someone comes and he find out that the price is too much, and he may prefer to walk instead of picking a taxi or picking a tow truck. So we wanted the government to at least look into the taxes that we were talking about, those nuisance taxes that we think up to now we are not supposed to pay those taxes. So today, if government has to do something about it, come out and maybe reduce those taxes or to scrap them, I think it will help, so that it will not push us to increase our transport fares up to this margin that people are talking about. So I think the government has to do something about it.
Aside the taxes,
it will affect all of us.
So aside the taxes, is that all it has to take for you to reverse that imminent increase that's coming?
Yeah, you see, when the petroleum product, the taxes on the petroleum product, I think it's about 12 taxes on the petroleum product. So at least if government has to sacrifice about 5 of them, it will bring the price down a little bit. Okay, so if it comes down to a certain level that we think we can manage, yes, we can manage, because it will help all of us. Because if the transporters increase their lorry fares, we do work with the market women and all that. When they come to join the vehicles, we take them to wherever they do their businesses. When we charge them high, they also transfer it back to us. Then the hardship is running around we ourselves. So that is why we are saying that the government should look into it, so that it will not push us to do this increase that we want to do.
And to the consumers, what should they expect from GPR to you?
To the consumers, what they should expect is that now that it's clear that the fuel price is beyond the 8.8 that we are talking about, definitely there is going to be a transport increment, an upward adjustment of transport increment, and they have to comply. They have to understand us. It is not we are not happy to do that, but then it has gotten to that extent. So they should just bear with that. Else, commuters will just park their vehicles. Cowners will not get monies to repair their vehicles. There are cowners are now taking their vehicles from drivers because they cannot meet their sales. There are some drivers now, they cannot fill their tanks. They do one gallon, just because at the close of the day, they will use all their monies to go and buy fuel. And it's affecting our business. So the way it is now, the passengers should just bear with us, so that all of us will go ahead.
Let's see how the coming days will be like. I'm grateful, Samuel Ama, for giving us the latest on this. On now to our Joy Clean Ghana campaign. 7 people have been handed cautionary notices by the officials of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly Sanitation team for failing to clean their surroundings. This was, however, characterized with confusion as the Joy Clean Ghana team visited some homes in Kaneshi in the Okankwe South Sab Metro. There's more in the following report.
Who is having the notice? Come and serve her.
come and serve her. We will take you to court so that you will be doing it every day. After paying to court, every day you will do it. I'm listening.
What she's saying is, it's chopped over there. So whatever you do, it still can go. Who made it to choke?
Move it every morning. Will it be choked? See, look at here.
No. Madam, you are not listening to what she's saying. You are not listening to what she's saying. Yes, you are not listening. I should say, you are standing in front of the person. You are not listening to what she's saying.
So you tell me what she's saying.
Madam, Tobu, why?
We are not talking about the water. We are talking about the...
We will do from today onwards. We will start doing it.
It's not we that will come and clean for
She's not asking you to clean. What are you talking about? So that's what she's not asking you to clean it. Is she asking you to clean it? No, sir. Is she asking you to clean it? So that's what we also... Is she asking you to clean it? You are not listening to what the person is saying. All that you say...
Confusion at Kaneshi Pamprum Wednesday morning as officials of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly went about enforcing the Operation Clean Your Frontage bylaws. There is still opposition to the regulation, which requires that owners and occupants of buildings ensure a clean frontage.
Yeah, at Kaneshi, if you stay here, you move. I am telling you. Fine. You don't live here. You don't live here. The problem that we are going through here, because of this building.
Just a few meters away from the spot of this chaos, Nathaniel Dakum, a landlord, together with his tenants, were busily desilting the drains in front of their house on the orders of the Sanitation Task Force. The bylaws also require that every household has a toilet facility, but Nathaniel Daku's house did not. He was given up to 2 weeks to construct a toilet facility for his tenants.
So now there is a law that every household is mandatory to have a toilet facility. So we are giving you 2 weeks to construct a toilet facility here. 2 weeks. So if you start and we will come and we are able to see that you started something, we can extend the days for you. So from us, we are living here, call a family meeting and inform all the residents, those who are occupying this premise. Tell them that AMA said it's a requirement that the house that you are living in, you are supposed to get a toilet facility. Because this day and in Ghana here that you are living in a household, I can just imagine the number of people are living in this house. So if you say they all go to the public toilet, in the night that if you go there and the public toilet is closed, you definitely do it into the public drain. And at the end of the day, this kind of disease like cholera and typhoid, it will come and hunt you yourself. Okay. You understand? So please, we mean it. 2 weeks time, we are coming back to these premises. And if we come and you've not started anything straight, we are taking you to court.
6 more households were given cautionary notices. The task force will be back for re-inspection. They will be made to face the court should they fail to clean their surroundings. Michael Ashali's report for JoyNews.
Now, as part of efforts in fixing the deplorable roads in the Gans Central Municipal Assembly, management of the Assembly has demolished some buildings in the area to pave way for the construction of the roads. The demolition exercise affected 2 buildings in the area, and they claim this is going to continue until there are enough spaces for the construction. MCE for the area, Mohammed Bashir Kamara, says most of the buildings are situated by the roadside, which makes movement of the vehicles in the area problematic.
If you look at Swotuom Heavenly Church Road, the people have complained over and over and over. The Puma Road, they have complained. Deeper Life Road, Palace Town Road. I mean, it is heartwarming that today you go to site, you go to those areas, you realize that work is going on steadily. So we are happy about the extent at which the contractors are going on with the work. The Assembly has passed a resolution to revoke permits of all structures all unauthorized structures that is there. So whether you have permit or not, the assumption the state is, as it is now is that you don't have permit. So just like the building that you see right behind me as I'm talking to you now, then Sunfa Road, coming straight, the building is just in the middle of the road. There is nothing we can do. We can't divert the road to any other place but to demolish.
Residents have also expressed satisfaction after the demolition exercise. They say living with such deplorable roads make life difficult for them. They are excited construction of the roads has commenced.
Oh, the road was very bad. Ever since about almost like 10, 15, 20 years ago, the road, we haven't seen any change. We thank God that today we've seen a bigger change.
Yes,
so over the years, these roads have been in the deplorable state to a point that vehicles are not able to access the community, which is making it very difficult for the community to access their various houses. So we deem it necessary for us to put in intervention. By so doing, we were able to give this route to regional office, and head office was able to award it to a contractor. And fortunately for us now, contractor is on site working as we are expecting.
The Bono East Regional Department of Agriculture has held a business partnership and market linkages fair in the Kintampo area as part of the department's planned activities to help promote agriculture in the region. The move, according to the Regional Director of Agriculture, Mrs. Cecilia Kajia-Ejaman, would, amongst others, introduce local farmers to modern farming methods, as well as expose them to ready markets for their farm produce. Anna Sabit was there and now reports.
As part of planned activities to help promote business partnerships and market linkages for actors in the agri sector, the Bono East Regional Department for Agriculture held a mini trade fair in the Kintampo North Municipality. The event, which was held under the theme Business Linkages, Promoting Markets and Partnerships in Agriculture, is to, amongst other things, introduce farmers to achieve sustainable agriculture as well as improve their living standards. Regional Director of Agriculture, Mrs. Cecilia Kajia-Ejaman, noted that the move is to showcase Bono East as the hub for purchasing quality farmer produce.
All that we are doing is to bring our suppliers together, our aggregators together, our distributors together, to meet our producers, basically. Yes, so all our farmers are here, and the farmers are showcasing how much they're able to do, the volumes they have. And all the crops they're able to do. We are showcasing everything, and they are telling the distributors, the aggregators, the suppliers that if they need anything, they should not go anywhere. The place to go is Bono East. And so we have the volumes, and therefore if any aggregator is interested in getting quality product or farm produce, the place to turn to, the place to do your purchases is Bono East.
She charged the youth of the area to identify the various opportunities in the agri sector in order to have the needed jobs, adding that there are many employment avenues in the sector.
We are also asking the youth that they should not just stay home idling about and thinking that there's no job or there's no work. There's a lot of work they can get to do in the agriculture sector. We have so many subsectors in agriculture that can offer them employment. So they should get to any agri office close by and then ask for the necessary information and trainings they can be given to enable them find a job for themselves. So this is a forum for investment, this is a forum for marketing or market linkages, this is a forum for employment.
Municipal Chief Executive for the area, Isaac Bafo Amiao, emphasized that the mini fair would help promote agriculture in the Kintampo North Municipality.
Luckily enough, we have so many organizations that are also helping to support our farmers, especially those in the cashew farming, the mango farming, and other cash crops. So it's something that, if it continues, is going to help our farmers a lot. So I think to showcase this in Kintampo, it's going to open the way for our farmers to know what exactly they can also do in terms of farming.
To the many farmers present at the event, the fair gave them the platform to showcase their goods and businesses.
This exhibition has been useful to me. I have learned a lot. I have come in contact with so many people too. Periodically, if they should organize such an exhibition, it will benefit us very well.
Some of the exhibitors appealed to the directorate to organize more of such exhibitions to enable them engage more with the local farmers.
Everything is fine. Everything went successful. So I'm very, very happy to be here today. I'm glad to do the advertisement. My advice is for them to be organizing frequently, time to time. Yeah. So because it's something that our company is something that our fourth generation will still make use of it.
I think when the agri department organize some program like this, it will help us to exhibit our duties and tasks in this. Okay.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Kintampo.
Well, we can now talk about COVID-19. We know that the minority in Parliament is asking government to review its position on the mandatory $150 test, which is charged at the Kotoka International Airport as part of measures to ensure safety as far as the COVID-19 testing is concerned. But there's a group which is advocating that some reviews also are needed in that regard. Joining us now is Edem Zenan, who's chairperson, Advocates for Christ Ghana, joining us to have a conversation on this growing call for the need for us to review the figures. Thanks, Edem, for joining us here on The Pulse. First of all, let me find out from you, do you support the position of the minority on this, that there's a need for us to relook and reconsider this very position of the $150 charge at the airport?
Well, yes. I think that globally there are serious efforts being made in various jurisdictions to review the COVID protocols, situations, and what have you. And so in Ghana also, this is necessary to take a look at it. If you look at the rising cost of living, wherever there is opportunity to make it easier for Ghanaians to get about their businesses, I think that should be taken on board. And evidently, I mean, right from the beginning, citizens have raised concerns about the pricing of the testing at the airport. And that is one area definitely we can make lives easier for Ghanaians if we take a look at the costing. Especially now that things have simmered down significantly, at least on this continent, I think there's reason to rethink what the requirements are and the pricing that is being given to people, especially Ghanaians.
We know that this is obviously to the time that we don't have to lose guard. The experts are telling us that we still have to keep up with the safety protocol. So if you're saying things are simmering down, is that to suggest that you are asking us to lose focus of the safety protocols?
No. If you take the UK, within its borders, there's a new set of protocols in place which also looks at the issue of natural immunity. If you've had COVID before, there is the assumption that at least over a 1-year period, you are considered to be safe. And so that then prevents you, that takes away the situation where you're going to have to be doing testing over and over again if you're moving from one point to another. So I'm saying that there's a need to do a total review of where we are in the context of what is happening internationally. And one of the elements of that would certainly be looking at the pricing of such tests, especially when cost of living, especially in Ghana, is going up. People would absolutely prefer a situation where you have to pay less where it is possible.
So going forward, what should we be really looking at in terms of the amount? Is there any price range that your group has in mind, or perhaps we just need to scrap the amount in its entirety?
Well, I know the minority has said it should be scrapped altogether. To the extent that testing must continue until the WHO clearly states that this is no longer a threat, obviously it's a service that will have some cost to it. So in my view, one should take a clinical look at what are the cost components and see what adjustments can be made to make it easier and less burdensome on the Ghanaian, and not to suggest that there may be no cost altogether or no testing altogether.
So a reduction in the price, that's what you're calling for?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm grateful, Adam Senandu, that you've been able to join us this afternoon on The Pulse. Forget that this hour, toll booth workers are bemoaning delays in reassignment. That is their major concern. The toll booth workers obviously are concerned about how their work has been affected after months of closure of the toll booths across the country. Joy Business James Ishan has been interrogating their concerns in this report.
After the closure of various toll booths across the country, the workers were given assurances of a reassignment. Ella Meto is one of such workers who were to be monitored to ensure that they were integrated into the Ministry of Roads and Highways. I visited Ella, one of the leaders of the group, to know how the journey has been for him and his colleagues.
Well, since the closure of the toll booths, PWDs especially have been fighting to get a new job, because we were all aware when the budget was being read at the Parliament in November, the minister told Ghanaians that the toll workers will be reassigned. So we keep following. So as I'm talking to you right now, we've been to the ministry for more than 4 times. But fortunately for us, the last time my colleagues went to the ministry, that was it 3 days today, on the 30th or something like that, on the 30th of January this year, the minister met them and promised them that they are still working on the reassignment for persons living with disability.
He wants the government to regulate the activities of the toll booth workers.
So we are still praying that reassignment is going to come, because when you check our constitution, the government is supposed to train PWDs and employ them. And there has never been an initiative to employ persons with disability in any institution larger than this initiative. So we were extremely happy, because it's going to alleviate a bit of poverty from some of our people. And it indeed happened. It was actually happened. So we are still praying that the government will still consider the decision by re-engaging, especially the PWD, because we can all testify to the fact that it's not every institution that is willing to employ PWD because of the cost involved.
It's been days, weeks and months, but no concrete feedback has been given to these former workers. After several meetings with the Finance Ministry, the toll booth workers are still hoping to get back to work regardless of the challenges.
Well, in the beginning, it wasn't encouraging. The feedback was not encouraging. As I've just said, on the 30th, my colleagues went there. I wasn't able to be part of them. The minister himself met them and promised them that within the week, the coming weeks, they are going to give us the plans that the government have for PWDs, especially as to the closure of the toll booth. So we are praying that promise that they made in the past and what the minister, Honorable Amakwata, also said on the 30th is going to yield the result that may bring some kind of relief to especially the PWDs.
Ella Meto has been unemployed for the past 1 year and over, right from when he was sacked till the closure of the toll booth across the country. But there is some positive news here. His group and himself are engaging the Ministry of Finance for a reassignment. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
Now, ranking member on the Local Government Committee of Parliament, Ni Lante Vanderpoy, has actually threatened to use parliamentary processes to compel the Accra Metropolitan Assembly to tackle the constant siphoning of its funds. He alleges that some assembly members may be accomplices, actually. He was speaking at the election and confirmation of the presiding member of the AMA.
As the ranking member of the Local Government Committee of Parliament, I have information and knowledge about the difficulties the AMA is going through as far as revenue mobilization is concerned. But we know the truth, that there are so many seepages in the system. There are individuals and characters who have arrogated to themselves revenue collection in Accra and are not accountable to the Assembly. And this should be your concern. I wouldn't want my sister to be sitting as the mayor and suffer the fate the former mayor suffered, where assembly could not derive the maximum revenue in order to embark upon its activities. Assembly's responsibilities go with fiscal responsibility. You cannot put up any project, you cannot do anything if the money is not there. And so everything must be done to safeguard the interests of the assembly by protecting the revenue of the assembly. And as a former deputy minister for local government, I shudder to say, if the AMA will continue and allow these things, the seepage to continue, I will not hesitate to use the parliamentary structure to drag the AMA before Parliament. This is becoming too much. You go to markets and you see 5, 6 different tickets being given out. And you could see some of the tickets, many I have with me, which are not authentic tickets from the assembly. And we have assembly members representing this assembly, and some of them, they see these things and they keep quiet. It's your responsibility as an assembly member to draw the mayor's and the presiding members' attention to such infractions happening within your electoral area. But maybe some of us benefit from it, so we'll continue to keep quiet. The presiding members say we must be not. You said what? We must be what? Citizens and not spectators.
Meanwhile, the newly elected presiding member of the AMA, Alfred Ajay, has refuted the claims by the Honourable Member of Parliament. He has, however, called for investigations into the allegations and promises to deal with assembly members who are found culpable.
He's a member of Parliament, he's part of the assembly. So if any concern, he has the right to raise that concern. Okay, he has raised the concern that A, B, C, D. It is not categorically true that maybe this or that.
What do you intend to do about the concern?
Concern, that's why I said that we have the FNA subcommittee chairman. We have the revenue subcommittee chairman. And it's at the floor. This is a house of record. It has been captured in our minutes. I have tasked them to see the honorable member, the statement that he made. Okay, it needs to be buttressed by document, this on that. Then we'll take that matter up. From there, it will come to the executive committee. Then the General Assembly will rule on that. Anyone who has been, who will be caught culpable with that will be dealt with. That's why I gave you the example. And to set the record straight to you again, I, the presiding member, I am the member of the audit committee of the Assembly, and we have records of people for financial malfeasances that we've taken the matter up to the extent that sometimes we've even send people to Iyoko, okay, to Iyoko. So I don't want the generalization of things. This is an institution. If one or two individuals, for one way or the other, they are not working to the betterment of the assembly, they will be dealt with.
Secretary of the National Media Commission, George Sapon, says a repeal of certain laws set to stifle free speech may present fresh challenges. The charge of publication of false news is one of such laws that have in recent times been heavily criticized as being used to deal with political opponents. Media analysts have been sharing views at a forum organized by the Ghana Institute of Journalism on freedom of expression.
What I want to say very controversially is that the only thing that links all these instances is the fact that each one of them has some kind of relationship with the police. Otherwise, they are very disparate issues. And within the context of free expression, it needs to be looked at very differently. The second position I want to submit, again following from what Evans, regarding on what platforms hold somebody accountable for offensive expression. And there's been a lot of confusion, and I think that the confusion is completely unwarranted. Two things need to stand out in your mind. When you read the literature on the issues, It is usually about jurisdictional matters. If somebody sits in London and posts material, do you try this person? But that is completely different from whether the material is actionable or not. Please, I want you to understand this so that you can appreciate the literature when you encounter it. The question of whether or not the person has done something bad is completely different from where can you try the person. Do you see the point? Discuss these issues, confuse the two elements. What are the normative principles? Under what circumstances can you hold somebody responsible for offensive speech? In any case, what do you consider offensive speech and under what circumstances? Does the material stay offensive across time and space? And I pose that question because, as you all know, we have place, manner, and time limitations.
And thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We'll return after this short break.
With us, and it's time to talk some sport. Now, are you a person who never walks alone? I'm talking about you're being a Liverpool fan. Well, if you're a Liverpool fan, then you sure will be interested in this. And of course, if you're anything other than a Manchester City fan as well, you would be interested in this. So, Liverpool have moved within 1 point of getting close to Premier League leaders Manchester City as they emerged impressive winners after a tough examination at Arsenal. Now, Liverpool have now reeled off 9 Premier League wins in succession and are just a point off the top spot. So the big question is, can the Reds beat Manchester City to win the EPL title for a second time in, 3 years? Well, Joel Botte of Joy Sports is here with me as usual, and we'll be doing the conversations right here. Thank you very much for your time. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr.
From your colors, you obviously are not interested in anything. Look, Joel, do you have a feeling that we're going to see what we saw some 2 seasons ago when Liverpool picked the title?
Yes, I do, in terms of the edge to which they are pushing to win the title.
Very well.
The season before they won that title, in the 18-19 season, they were actually leading. Another time, they had a goal scorer in Mohamed Salah. Now, when Mohamed Salah was on fire, he was the kind that everyone felt, no, he's the one who's going to lead Liverpool to the title. Man City brought up something no one expected. We're also 10+ points behind Liverpool and pushed for the title. Eventually, they won that season with 1 point. 38 games played, 98-97. So if you look at this season, it's one that we may see something similar to this 18-19-20 season, where it may go down to the wire. And then where I'm tipping Liverpool is because that season after, they saw that no, they can't play games with Manchester City. So they're going to push for the title to the end. And I expect that to happen. They would overtake Man City and win the title.
Well, this is not Ghanaian politics, but obviously this is a story of the Big Six. All the more relevant clubs in the English Premier League are lined in the top 6. We want to quickly take a look at this, this table right here. So there we go. Manchester City, they have 98 points after playing 38 games. Following them is the 97 points that Liverpool have, and this of course is, statistics from the 2018-19 season that Botte was referring to. So there we go. So the top 6 in there. Now, this is it, 97 here for Liverpool, and then 98. And then Chelsea were there with 72. The closest to them was Tottenham Hotspur, and then Arsenal, and then Manchester United. So it is just looking kind of similar, just like you said. Now, what is it that you feel is that one factor that will cause that tiebreaker, that will break both sides apart? Because this is very close. I mean,
what will make the difference is if you look at the statistics right now, in terms of players that are influencing the game, you look more towards Liverpool. The leading goal scorer currently in the EPL is Mohamed Salah. He has 20 goals. The second best is Diogo Jota, who they recently acquired from Wolves. Now, you come to the next person, and it's Ronaldo, who is not a Manchester City player. You come to Manchester City, who don't have anyone up top in terms of their assists. So you look at the assist table too, and we have Trent also leading that, and we have Robertson following, and then Mohamed Salah, 11. So these players are what will make the difference. Manchester City would have the stars, they have a deep team, but then Liverpool have the players that are pushing so hard to get the title this season. We can see currently that it's 29 games played, there are 9 games remaining, and with the fixtures remaining, Liverpool face a tougher opposition in terms of more top 6 teams to play compared to Manchester City, who will only face Liverpool in the race.
Very well. All right. So we'll quickly also take a look at those fixtures that we're expecting, the remaining 9 games and how we're expecting them to go. So there we go. These are the games that Liverpool will be playing. On April 2, Watford, they face Watford at home. They play Manchester City away. That sure will be a cracker without a doubt. Now, they play Aston Villa away on April 16, and then 3 days later they play Manchester United, just like Joel has said. And then, of course, there's Everton, that tie on 23rd of April, and on the 30th, Newcastle, and then Tottenham Hotspurs on May 7, and then Southampton on May 15, and then the final day, which will be May 22, where they play Wolves. Of course, by that time, it is hoped that, would see our way clear regarding, how it's going to go. Let's quickly take a look at Manchester City and the games remaining as well. So there we go. Manchester City on April 2 have a game against Burnley, and then they play that big one itself, against Liverpool on the 10th of April. And then Wolves, Brighton at home, Watford at home, Leeds United away, Newcastle United at home, and then West Ham, and then Aston Villa. The final game.
Yeah, so you can see they face only Liverpool, which is a top 6 side currently. The rest, Manchester City can see.
Are you giving any space at all for big surprises?
Yes, I am.
I mean, Manchester United have been surprised very well this season.
Very well, yes. And that's what separates these two sides in terms of the Manchester teams. Manchester United are a bit shaky currently, but Manchester City are focused and are looking to get the title. Where I'm leaving the room for error is where we know Manchester City have had issues with Wolves over the past seasons, and it could be a very dicey one for them. I also expect Brighton to also step up, and Newcastle, because Newcastle now under Eddie Howe and the new players they've got in Wood and the likes, it's going to be a tough fixture. Though Manchester City are a top 6 side, Newcastle will be looking to push and get that point and push out of the relegation zone totally. Hopefully by that time they should be safe, but then I believe that side will to Manchester City.
We've also talked about the individual brilliance. I mean, the goals scored, the assists given, and all of that. I mean, look at both sides and tell me whether you see any form of individual brilliance staring all of us in the face in these remaining 9 games.
Whew. The remaining 9 games.
I'm turning you into an octopus ball, right?
These remaining 9 games. Wow. Manchester City play more of a team than Liverpool. So I'm expecting the individual brilliance to come from Liverpool's end. And I'm looking, the face that I'm imagining is Jota or Salah. These 2 names are ones that, big moments, they can step up for you. For this title race, I'm leaning more to these 2 guys to make the difference for Liverpool. I expect them to do something wonderful in their fixtures, because they face Manchester United, they face Tottenham, and there's a Merseyside derby with Everton. These are some of the games that you expect these players to make the difference, and that's why I'll tip them for their individual brilliance to sail Liverpool through.
All right, away from all of it, once again, the very difficult one. How do you feel? I mean, yeah, sometimes these things are non-football factors, but sometimes they come to play.
Yeah.
The red side or the light blue side, eventually?
Whew. Let me take the red side. Even though I'm not in red, or not a red fan.
We should go back to your prediction table on Joy Sports and see what you said ahead of the start of the season.
Yeah.
Whether you are contradicting yourself now.
I see what you did there, but let's lean more towards the Reds. Let's lean more towards the Reds. I see the edge they're pushing. The past 9 games, they've not lost a single game. And Manchester City have drawn with the likes of Crystal Palace, even though they rested players against Sporting Lisbon. Still seeing that effect from it.
Okay, so you're leaning towards the red side. Well, let's give ourselves a few. I mean, nine match days, pretty substantial. 27 points to gather from there. So let's see how all of it goes. So that's it for now. And remember that we're going to be bringing you some analysis later this evening on Prime Sport with Gary. Then, of course, there's a lot to follow from the sports page of myjoyonline.com and also all of our social media handles. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with another thing to discuss. My name is Nathaniel Atto.
And it's a wrap for today's edition of The Pulse here on the Joy News channel. My name is Blaise Sugan. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. We have more updates for you there. Next, it's Let's Talk Show.